All right, I think I'm streaming. I'm not sure, but I'm just going to go through my different parts of this setup. I'm using Obsidian here on the screen. Obsidian with a little bit of a picture-in-picture. We're talking about David Bourne. That's me. Bourne for the Journey. And I've got my iPad picture-in-picture. Those both seem to be working miraculously. I had a camera die today, but did that hold me back? It did not. I got another camera. My other camera works, and in some ways I like it even better. So there you go. You live, you learn, you grow. That's what this is about. Growth along the journey. We'll be talking about three things today, particularly. We're going to talk about the, let me flip through them here on my screen. My main topic is this 4-part self cycle. Okay, so this is a cycle where we move through the 4 different parts of ourself, and if we're aware of this cycle, it can really help us to navigate life's challenges better. Not only navigate them better, but we can learn how to embrace the difficult parts of life with more gusto and enjoy life more because of that. And you know, if the word cycle makes sense to you, you may have reference to the hero's journey, which I believe the change cycle is kind of baked into that, just how things change, animals, plants, life and earth, people, how we all just go through these different phases. I break it down into 4 parts because it makes it more clear to me, especially because those 4 parts mimic the 4 parts of the brain as understood by Jill Bolte Taylor, Carl Jung, 4 parts of the self. And this is a universal principle. I think the progress through these different phases. So I want to talk about that, but also want to talk about the dip, which is something I talked about yesterday in this series, which is whenever you're trying to learn something new, it is at first exciting and challenging, and you just have a lot of energy for that. And because you have that energy for it, you grow, you change. But then you start to plateau where it's not as exciting, it's not as fun, and inevitably you're going to hit a dip, which is both good news and bad news. The bad news is that you're going to have to work through it. And it is a real pain because those parts of you that don't think you can do this, they're going to show up, the resistance. These parts of you that have listened to other voices in your life that say you can't do things like that, they're going to show up. You're going to face obstacle after obstacle after obstacles, just kind of like the hero's journey. Meaning the hero has to face the villain and all the challenges that happen, and that's the dip. Well, the bad news is that. The good news is that you can fight through that, and especially if you know that the dip often causes your competition to drop away because a lot of people quit in the dip. And so that's where you have your chance to shine. And so often the dip things will be revealed to you, just as in the hero's journey. If this kind of magical part of the universe often, I know that sounds corny, but I have come to believe that is true. And it's hard to talk about that, but it's one of the things I'm learning to do, is to talk about that mysterious, mystical connection that often happens in that part of the journey after and during the struggle. And so that can help you skyrocket out of the dip and get you where you really want to be, which is ultimately in connection with your true self. So another concept I talked about a couple of days ago is the gap, which is a really cool idea from Ira Glass, where he says, you know, when you start out, particularly if you have really good taste, which I know all of you do, that it is really hard because the work you create, the writing, the art, the music, whatever it is you're doing, video production, this is me right this very second. It doesn't feel like it's living up to what you think it should be. Your tastes are really high, but your work level is down here. And that stinks because that's hard. And so there's a gap between where you want to be and where you want to go. And he says the only way to work through it is to put yourself on a deadline, which is what I'm doing with this project, a deadline to get out as many videos as I can and to show up and do the work, and it'll get better. And just you have to let go of these often wrong expectations. I mean, how can it be any better than I'm able to do? It just can't be any better than I'm able to do right now. Will it get better? Of course. Will I be able to speak about these ideas more clearly in the future? Of course. Well, that's the goal. But if I don't do the work, that's not going to happen. So I just want to draw these out a little bit and particularly talk about how they work within the 4-part cycle. So let me switch over here to the iPad, and hopefully one of my batteries isn't going to die. That's all too common that's what they want to do right about now. So, the dip. Let's see, the dip is, let me change my level here. I'm just going to create a new, well, let me do this. So the dip is, where's this? I'm going to divide this up into 3 different screens. That's not a big enough pen. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to redo that. Whoops. Hey, I didn't know you could redo that. Let's see. Where'd you go? Okay. 3, sorry about this. 1, where did it go? Hidden layer. Of course, I can't draw on a hidden layer. It's hidden. Turn it on. There we go. All right, here we go. See, I should have done my setup better. All right, we got 3 different things. You've got the first one I mentioned. I'm going to put it over here. It is the 4-part self. So you've got your true self up here at the top. This is what you want to become. This is where you're going. This is the part of you that you're trying to flesh out. That you're trying to become the artist that you know that you can be. You're trying to do the work, the writer, whatever it is. Well, you start out here in phase 1, we go to 2, then we go to 3, and to the 4. All right, so what are these? Well, you go in a circle. You start out with, I don't know, an attempt. You try something. So you've got this new thing, right? You've got this new thing, and you try it. And there's a lot of unknown here, right? There's a lot of question marks here. But every time you try something, every time you take action, what happens? Well, you're going to learn something. You're going to get a result. And I call these the P problem. Let me change the color of my pen, because this will make more sense if it's a different color. You've got your problem, you've got your action, you've got your result, and then you've got a new truth. Okay? You got a new truth. That's where you're going. Well, whenever you do the work and you continue to go in these cycles, you're going to gain more and more truth as you go. Now, what's really hard is that you're gonna actually, and it's kind of more like this, where you're going to be kind of stuck in this area here. You're going to feel stuck. You're making progress, but it's not going to feel like progress, right? That's where the gap comes in. So Ira Glass's idea of the gap is you start here and you want to get here. So let's call this A and let's call this Z. Well, the quality of your work, you want it to be up here. I'm taking a risk here because I've never drawn it out like this before. You want to be up here. Can you see that dotted line? Sort of. I'll make the dots a little bit bigger. You want to be up here, but in reality, your work feels like it's down here. It just doesn't feel that good. The quality doesn't feel good. And it'll get a little bit better, you know, as you iterate and as you do these cycles, just like over here in this third quadrant where you're getting these results. Now, the results may not feel like what you want them to be, but nevertheless, you're learning, you're growing, you're changing. And so eventually what happens is you're going to get up here, but it's going to take a lot of work. And it's going to take a mindset that understands this. And that is so critical. The mindset that understands that this is how things work. You've got to see, I don't mean to be preachy. I'm talking to myself. I've got to see that every time I make a new video, even though it's not going to be as good, I'm going to learn something. And I'm going to tweak. Like I learned that this camera I bought the other day, which I was really excited about, it just broke. I thought, oh, I'll just carry around a little camera like this instead of, you know, one of these, and it'll be, you know, spend $100 on this instead of a lot more on that, and I'll be able to keep this in my camera bag and take it where I want. And I shouldn't have the power on if I'm not using it. But this thing died on me today. And luckily, I've done this enough that I know how to set up another camera because I've done it enough. You know, why? Well, because I made a whole bunch of mistakes, what I think are mistakes, right? See, I even call them mistakes. I make a bunch of other attempts, so I know how to connect another camera. I know how to connect all this stuff. And yeah, it's a little bit frustrating, but it's also pretty fun. But the real work is down here doing this. It is doing the iterations that are eventually going to get here, even though it feels like it's down here. You are going to get from A to Z if you do the work. And it's going to be satisfying. And it is satisfying. You know, in the past couple of days, I've made a few videos, and it is so much more satisfying to have done that. Now, so what am I doing? Well, ultimately what I'm doing is I'm working towards my true self here. I'm working towards growing and changing, and I can already feel it. You know, I'm starting to understand these concepts better. The next step for me is going to be to write these out. And so I spend a lot of time today. When I told myself I would be making a video, I spent a lot of time on this. Got to remember to switch over. I've spent a lot of time writing this and adding to my notes because I want to publish these notes so that they will be out there for folks like you to enjoy and understand. Now I have a third one, the dip. There are videos that I have on the gap and the videos I have on the dip too. So this one is to be how these three all work together. So with the gap, or the names are kind of confusing. Seth Godin wrote a book called The Dip. And let me write this down, this will make more sense. This is the gap. This is the gap. This is Ira Glass, look him up. And then I have the dip. So what's important? See, my damn battery died. What the fuck? All right, I'm gonna do something. Pardon my French. I knew my battery was gonna die. I'm gonna add another camera that is, hello, let's see. Stop when not visible, restart. See, this is a problem I've never had before. Always play, even when not visible. I hope that works. I don't know what this is. Video source. What's the video source? It's a playlist. Never mind. Shoot. I'm going to add another capture device. That's what I'm doing. What is the capture device going to be? It's going to be my web camera. Donde está? You know, web camera's not even in here. Detail camera. FaceTime HD camera. There you are. Okay, I hope this is viewing. I can't even tell if you're seeing this, but I think you are. So anyway, the next thing's not going to work, but my iPad. Okay, get back to the iPad. Sorry about that. You just got to keep going, folks. The old Dave would have quit and redone all this, but screw that. I'm not doing that. The dip. So the dip is, again, you've got where you want to be, and so you have all this energy at first, and it's great, it's awesome, it feels good, you're learning a lot, and things are going great. But then you have this downward slump. And forget this for a second. You've got this downward slump, and it's a lot of people right here quit. Then, you know, maybe you should quit. If it's not your true work, if it's not your calling, if it's not the thing you should be doing, you really need to find out, is this the thing that I need to be doing? That is a very important question down here, because there's nothing wrong with quitting something you really shouldn't be doing. But if it's something that you are just committed to and you know that this is your life's work, like I know making these videos and talking about this stuff is my life's work. So I am not going to quit. I am going to work through the dip, and I'm going to go in these cycles. And remember, the cycles are this part. You start out with a problem, you keep taking action, you keep getting different results, and eventually you're going to break into this fourth quadrant, which brings you closer and closer to your true self. So that is what this represents when you get here. And remember, the competition is going to be much greater here in this part. The competition is going to be much greater in this part because a lot of people are going to be trying to do what you want to do. But right here, a lot of people quit. Now, this is a mess. I'm sorry about that. A lot of people quit here. This is your competition quitting. But you're not going to quit. You're going to make it. You're going to work through the dip. All right, so those are those three ideas put together, and yeah. So ask yourself, where am I in all this? Is there something that I've been trying to do that I just can't do? Check into the gap concept. Look at Seth Godin's concept. Look at these four parts of the self and ask yourself, you know, am I meant to quit or am I meant to keep on going? And whichever thing you do, it's okay. But make sure you're aware of what you're doing. Ultimately, these three things just lead to greater awareness, and that's awesome. And if you get that, then I've done my job here. All right, folks, I'm David Bourne. This is Bourne for the Journey. Where is my text? Oh, yeah. My camera stopped working. So hope to see you in the next one. Cheers.